All right, thank you, Bill. Miss Evils. Well, the spring new airline rules were passed, and they're going to go into effect in the fall. And joining me today to give us more insight on what this all means for travelers is Kevin Brasler. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning.
Well, let's just jump right into it. Yeah. These rules were passed. You're telling me they're not going into effect until the fall. So summer travel should still kind of be the way it's been going, but right. What does this mean for everyone?
Yeah, so and they actually codified into law, and so the big change is that, you know, whenever airlines cancel a flight or put a significant change in the schedule for your flight, we've always been entitled to refunds. The problem is airlines by default were giving out trip credits and vouchers. So especially during the pandemic, when airlines were canceling thousands of flights, they'd tell their customers, hey, we've canceled your flight, you know, here's a trip credit for you. They weren't really necessarily telling them, hey, you can get a refund, or they were making us, and they still are, making us jump through hoops to get refunds. You have to go to a certain part of their website, enter the ticket number, not the itinerary number, but the ticket number, and then sometimes it'd take a couple of weeks for them to approve your request. And the new law says essentially, no, cut it out. If somebody's entitled to a refund, you have to automatically give them the refund, as opposed to, you know, giving these trip credits. A big problem with the trip credits is they expire after a year, and so, you know, the airlines were sitting on, you know, millions and millions of dollars of people's money and not necessarily communicating very well that they were entitled to a refund all along.
Okay, so the key word I am taking away here is automatic.
Automatically.
Is that really going to happen? I mean, how automatic? Is it a month?
No, and so the law also says, you know, the airlines have a certain amount of time to give you that refund. I think it's 10 business days. It may be 7, I can't remember. But they have to return that money to your automatically to your original form of payment. Another thing the new law says, and this is a great thing for families, is that they can no longer charge you fees to pick seats to sit together. That if you're traveling with small children, children under the age of 13, the airlines automatically have to let you sit together. Now, they still may put you in the very back row of the plane, but they can't charge you extra to accommodate you in that way.
Okay, and at least you're together, right? What about the flight gets canceled and then you maybe have the delay of the bags? Do you get credit for those, or you just kind of have to wait and see? Is that still the same game?
Right. There's also new rules in terms of what airlines have to do if your luggage is lost or delayed. Usually it involves, you know, returning, you know, the baggage handling fee that you paid. The law doesn't do a number of other things, though. The Department of Transportation this spring separately issued new rules in terms of, you know, right now when you go to book a ticket, often you are shown a basic economy fare up front. It doesn't disclose to you, oh, you have to pay this much extra to pick a seat, or this much extra if you want to change your flight, or this much extra if you want to, you know, check a bag or even bring a carry-on. The new rules said essentially, well, the airlines have to disclose those fees to you up front when they show you a ticket price. Those rules were going to go to effect this fall, but unfortunately the airlines are suing to block those new rules, and those new rules weren't included in this legislation that was passed that affect our, you know, how we get refunds for canceled flights.
Well, I find it frustrating. I'm sure as most people do. You look, you see it like a saver flight, a main, and then it's like all those fees on top of it, and then you can't change. How can we as travelers protect ourselves? You've told us a little bit how to do that, and that may or may not change, but what about the scams or things when you're going online and kind of clicking around? Right,
it is a huge problem. I mean, the entire airline industry really is involved and engaged in what I call it's a bait and switch operation, right? They show you a low fare, that's what you're searching on, that's how you sort, but then that doesn't really, that's not the fare really anyone's paying. I mean, I guess some people are still booking basic economy fares, but most of us, because of the add-ons, are going to pay a lot more. And that's what the Department of Transportation sought. You know, they said, look, you know, you can't just engage in this bait and switch operation. Just disclose the fees up front. And they didn't eliminate the fees, which I think they should do, but at least disclose what it's going to cost to check a bag or bring a carry-on or pick a seat. Do it up front and do it in a way to where people can kind of comparison shop, you know, to see what's the best price for them in reality, as opposed to this fantasy low price that no one's paying. And unfortunately, the airlines are suing to block that, and you know, there's no reason. They're making billions of dollars off all these junk fees at the expense of consumers.
Well, Kevin, we are so glad you're with Consumers Checkbook and keeping us in check here, and I can imagine we're going to be having you on through the summer and fall as we lead up to all these changes to see what actually comes our way for the traveler.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Kevin.